Lily is growing. Lily is growing up. I'm in the shadow. I'm in the shade. There are many confusing words in English that students often use incorrectly. Let's fix that. Today you'll learn how to use these 21 confusing but very common English words. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. Let's start with grow and grow up. I hear a lot of mistakes with this one. Here's a quiz. Which one do you need? My company quickly over the past 5 years. My company, that's your keyword, quickly grew.
We're growing.
So of course the verb is to grow, in this case conjugated in the past simple, and this means to increase in size, amount, quantity, strength, or importance. So just think increase. Now grow up is a phrasal verb. This is used to mean to develop from a child to an adult. It can also be used to mean to mature emotionally or mentally. So you cannot say my business grew up to represent your business growing or maturing. You need to say my business grew, or you could use the word mature. My business matured. Remember, only use grow up with people or even animals. For example, wow, Lily is growing up so fast. So Lily is maturing from a child to an adult. You could also say, wow, Lily is growing so fast. This means Lily is getting taller. So you can say, wow, my tomato plants are growing so fast, getting taller, getting stronger. Or you can say, wow, my English vocabulary is growing so fast, increasing in size. And hopefully my videos are helping you do that. So put that's right, put that's right in the comments. Now, a very common question, one you must know and hopefully already do, where did you grow up? Where did you grow up? Where did you mature? So transition from a child to adult. I grew up in Winnipeg. I grew up in Canada. What about you? So now you know the difference. Here's your quiz question that uses both. In a small village, nobody expected his small business into a Fortune 500 company. Well, business is your keyword that you need grow, not grow up, because we only use grow up with people. So as he grew up in a small business, nobody expected his business would grow. Don't worry about taking these notes. I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's talk about shade and shadow. Do these confuse you? It was a hot day, so we sat in the cool under the tree. Which one do you need? We sat in the cool shade.
Shade's getting scarce in these parts.
Shade is a noun. It's an area where direct sunlight is blocked, providing cooler temperature. Shadow is also a noun, but it's a dark shape cast when something blocks light. So you cannot say, let's sit in the shadow. That doesn't sound natural. You say, let's sit in the shade. And notice it's the shade, not a shade, the shade. But you could say we found a shaded area for our picnic. In this case, shaded is the adjective that describes area. How about this one? When I was growing up, I loved making shadow puppets with my friends. Did you ever do that? Or you could say, my dog is scared of her own shadow. Now let's review this sentence. My tomato plant isn't growing well because I planted it in the shade, an area where direct sunlight is blocked. Here's your quiz. She sat in and watched the trees cast on the fence. She sat in the shade. Did you get the? It's very important. The shade, and watched the trees cast shadows. Shadows. So you can use the plural like I did, or you could say a shadow, but it sounds more natural to use the general shadows on the fence. Now let's talk about assist and attend. Here's the question. The conference last week to learn more about the new technology. I attended the conference.
I attended good schools.
This may be confusing for you depending on your native language, because assist is a false friend in some languages. I hear this mistake a lot with my French, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese students. Maybe in your native language, it's also a false friend. So the verb to assist, this means to help or support someone actively, often by doing something to aid them, to help them. I assisted the organizers at the conference. So you can assist someone just like you can help someone. But you wouldn't say, I assisted the conference. I helped the conference directly. You assist someone, not something. But you can use an additional preposition and say, I assisted with the conference. But that means you helped. You helped with the conference. So you could add, I assisted with some administrative tasks to identify what you helped with, what you offered your assistance with some administrative tasks at the conference. Now, attend, this is a verb to attend, and that means to be present at an event, meeting, class, or function. Are you attending the presentation next week? Are you going to? They attended the training session last Friday. They went to the training session. Here's your quiz question. The workshop yesterday and ended up the presenter by fixing the printer. Well, you assist someone and you attend something. So from that, I know I attended the workshop and ended up assisting the presenter. Now let's review floor and ground. Please wipe your feet before walking on the floor.
Take it floor by floor.
Floor is a noun. It's the inside surface. That's the key. The inside surface of a room, and you walk on it. Now, ground is also a noun, but it's the outdoor earth surface. So think mud, dirt, grass, plants. That's the ground. Now, you absolutely can say she dropped her keys on the ground, or she dropped her keys on the floor. You can tell your kids, pick your toys up off the ground or off the floor. But there's a difference because floor is inside and ground is outside. So you can say the office floor was recently cleaned, or the floor in the office was recently cleaned. I planted my tomato plant into the ground, of course. So here's your quiz. The is soaking wet from the rain, and now I have shoe marks all over. Well, the ground is soaking wet because it rains outside, and you care about the shoe marks inside, so all over my floor. Oh, this is a confusing pair, and you may be learning these words for the first time, so you can learn them correctly. Yard and lawn. They spent the afternoon raking the lawn.
Raking the leaves and trimming the lawn isn't going to help.
Yard, this is a noun. It's an outdoor area around a building, such as a home. And it can be paved, so think cement or rocks or gravel, or it can be grassy, so think grass, plants. Now, a lawn, this is also a noun, but it's a grassy, well-maintained area. So when you think lawn, just think grass. That's the important thing, lawn, grass. So you can say, wow, you have a beautiful yard. But remember, this is a larger space. So it includes everything. It includes the lawn, fence, plants, fountain, patio table, stones, steps, anything you have in this space. You can also say, wow, you have a beautiful lawn. Remember, that's grass. So you might say, it's so lush and green because you're describing the grass. So you can say the kids are playing in the yard because we use the preposition in for an enclosed space. Or the kids are playing on the lawn because the lawn is considered a vertical surface, so we use the preposition on. Now let's review this sentence. I love sitting on the lawn, on the grass, in my backyard. So you can use backyard or front yard. So backyard is the enclosed space behind your house, and front yard is the enclosed space in front of your house. Are you ready for your quiz? Her husband mowed the, while she watered the flowers in the. Well, in the is a good keyword because we use in with yard, and you mow the grass. And remember, lawn, grass. He mowed the grass. He mowed the lawn. Another confusing pair, sympathy and empathy. Native speakers also are confused by these. I felt great for my colleague when she lost her pet. I felt great. Sympathy.
My heartfelt sympathy.
Sympathy is a noun. It's feeling pity or sorrow for someone's misfortune. So we often express sympathy by saying the words, I'm so sorry. And then you can continue on. I'm so sorry for your loss. That's sympathy. Empathy, also a noun, it's the ability to understand and share others' feelings. So you may express empathy, show empathy by saying, I understand the pain you're feeling right now. So you can say, I sent a card to express sympathy because in that card, there are some words. Sympathy is generally words. In fact, that's the name of a category of cards. So you might ask, where are the sympathy cards? The cards written to express sympathy. Empathy is often talked about in the business world because it's considered that good managers need empathy to support their team. So someone might say, he has great empathy for clients under stress. Now here's the quiz. I appreciated flowers you sent, but what I really needed was someone to talk to. I appreciated the sympathy flowers. So the flowers are there to express your sorrow or your pity. But the person needed your empathy. They needed your understanding. Now let's talk about fire and lay off. Here's the question. Due to poor performance, he was last week. Poor performance is the key word. He was fired.
You're fired.
So the active verb to fire, this is to dismiss someone due to poor performance or misconduct, like stealing. Layoff, this is a phrasal verb in the active form. This is to dismiss someone, but the reason is different. It's for economic reasons, like I don't have the money to pay you. It's not fault. It's not because your work is bad. It's because I can't pay you, so I need to lay you off. Now, this is important because if you say I was fired or I was laid off, it is a very different meaning. And there are important legal and future consequences or considerations depending on what happened. So you can say she was fired for missing deadlines. Notice this is the passive form. She's receiving the action. You can also say the company fired her for missing deadlines. This is the active form. The company is doing the action. Or hundreds of restaurant workers were laid off during COVID. There was no work for them, economic reasons. So this is the passive form. Or the company laid off hundreds of restaurant workers during COVID. That's the active form. Now what about this? We're doing everything we can to avoid layoffs. Layoffs is a noun here, so it also exists as a noun form. Or you can say we're doing everything we can to avoid laying off people. This is the active verb conjugated in the gerund because avoid is a gerund verb. Are you ready for your quiz? Jane was when the project ended, and her husband was the same week for violating company policy. Jane was laid off. The project ended. There's no more work for Jane. Economic reasons. The husband violated policy. He was fired. Now let's review amount and number. The of rain this month has been unusually high. The amount of rain. Hopefully you knew that.
Just the right amount.
Amount is a noun. It's a quantity of something uncountable. Number is a noun. It's a quantity of something countable. That's the difference. So you could have something countable and say, I can't believe the number, you can count, the number of puddles, 1, 2, 3, 4 puddles there are from the amount, the quantity of something uncountable, the amount of rain last week. The amount of data is growing. Now you can think of something countable and say the number of bugs is growing. Notice bugs is plural, but the verb is conjugated with the number, which is singular. The number of bugs is growing. They reduced the amount of sugar, uncountable, in the recipe. I need to reduce the number of carbs I eat. Here's your quiz question. We have of tasks to complete for the conference, and there's still a substantial of work left on the project. Well, you need to think countable, uncountable. Tasks is countable, a number of tasks, and work is uncountable, so a substantial amount of work. Now let's talk about trip and journey. I'm excited to be part of your English learning journey.
Fool's journey is the only journey.
Trip is a noun, is a physical travel somewhere for social or business purposes, usually for a short period of time. Journey is also a noun. It's a longer travel or process, like your English learning journey. That's a process, and is often used metaphorically to suggest adventure, challenge, movement, progress, or development. That's why learning English is a real journey. This is used metaphorically to say it's a long process with lots of challenges and adventure and other things along the way. Or you can say we're going on a journey around the world. So this is going to be a long trip with adventure, challenges, and a lot along the way. If you say we're going on a trip, maybe to Africa, Well, someone might ask, oh, for business or pleasure, because the word can be used for both. So you can specify we're going on a business trip to New York City, or we're going on vacation to New York City, because vacation is a trip for pleasure only. Here's your quiz. We only planned a 2-week to Greece, but it turned into a 2-week trip, a short travel, but it turned into a real journey, a longer trip with a lot of developments, adventure, challenges, a real journey. Now let's talk about 3 together. I'm not going to say them out loud because there are some pronunciation differences I want you to identify without me saying them. So here's the quiz question. I go on YouTube every Tuesday. What do you need? Well, of course, the spelling is the same for 2, but the pronunciation is not. I go live. I go live on YouTube every Tuesday. Make sure you attend my next live.
We're getting some live footage now.
Now, live, notice that pronunciation. Live is a verb. Of course, this means having life or having a home somewhere. He lived, past simple, for 10 years after the accident. So he remained alive. Or, to talk about your home, I live in Canada, of course. Now, what about live? Notice that pronunciation, live, I've. This is an adjective. It also means having life, or in my context of YouTube, is when a broadcast is seen in real time. So this lesson right now isn't live. I recorded it last week. Or I can say performing live still makes me nervous. Now life is a noun, and it means being alive or the period between birth and death. You have an amazing life. His life was long. But what about this one? Their lives were long. So lives, this is the irregular plural noun of life. And notice that pronunciation, lives, their lives were long. But of course, she lives in Canada. Lives is the third person singular of the verb to live. So notice those pronunciation differences. Now your quiz. Make sure you say it out loud so you're pronouncing it correctly. I, in Boston, but I'm performing in Chicago this month, and I'm having the time of my... Did you say it out loud? I live in Boston, I'm performing live, and I'm having the time of my life. Now you can use these 21 words correctly. Do you want me to keep helping you improve your vocabulary? If you do, put let's go, put let's go in the comments. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.